As a Black, gay Christian man, I have struggled immensely. One of my biggest struggles in my life has been that of my faith and sexuality. I grew up in a space where I was told that my sexuality was a sin, leaving me in utter tension. I wondered, was I the only person with this identity, with this story? But I later learned that there are so many other persons who share the same story. It is my hope to share with you the various stories of persons who have come out and have claimed their faith and live authentically and have learned to celebrate just who they are. The stories that often go unheard, the stories of LGBT persons of faith.
My name is Brittany Summerhill, and I identify as a lesbian. Coming out to my mom was this lifetime moment, movie special, very emotional. I feared that it wasn't going to go as planned. I feared that I would be rejected. We drove up to this viewpoint in Oakland, and I asked her, "Do you think that you were a good mom? Do you feel like you raised me the best you could?" And her response was, "I did the best I could. I was a single mom. Yes, I did real good." So I turned to her and I just said, "I like women. I like girls. I'm a lesbian." And I believe it was shocking at first. You know, I had little boyfriends here and there, but she said, "I love you, and that's not going to change. You're my only daughter, and I love you more now than ever."
Brittany came out to me when she was 16, and I'll never forget it. It was August, and she was asking me these questions, and I could tell there was something that she wanted to tell me, but she was so nervous. And she kept on saying, "Well, Mom, do you think that you were a good mom to me?" And I said, "Yes, indeed. I was a single parent. I did the best I could, yes." And she said, "Well, okay, well, I like girls. I like boys too, but I really like girls." And I had to digest that for about a second. And I told her, "Brittany, I love you. I love you so much." And it took a lot of courage for her to do that, to trust me with that information.
We didn't skip a beat. It just, the next day was still filled with love and compassion.
I didn't think I could, but I loved her even more for being so courageous and being so authentic. And I'm so happy that she came out to me when she was 16, as opposed to 26, 36, or 46.
To situate things a little, let me describe my religious communities. I grew up as a missionary kid in Bogota, in Cali, Colombia, and Guadalajara, Mexico. I'm a Latina. My dad's from southern Mexico, and my mom's Anglo. She's white, and she's from California. And so I came out of the closet almost 4 years ago. I was living in the San Joaquin Valley in the Fresno area. I had been a straight, identified, married Christian woman and a college professor at a Christian college, 2 Christian colleges. I was ready to adopt a baby with my husband of 14 years. I'd been a vocal LGBT ally in the Christian college setting and in the Episcopal diocese I was a part of at the time. I realized I needed to leave my marriage and that I was queer all roughly at the same time. I was in the closet to myself and everyone else for about a period of 3 weeks. There were friends from church who had known us forever, had been supportive of my family when my dad and I were in a car accident where my dad almost lost his life and where I could have. And so I knew that they knew that I had left my husband and that I had moved to Oakland to be with my partner. And so I just wanted to connect with them and not just say hi, but just kind of fill them in like, you know, most people would. "Oh, I'm not living in the area anymore, and this is what I'm doing." I knew that they would be disapproving and very disappointed, and that they might, you know, say some of that when I talked to them. What I couldn't have predicted was that the man, husband and wife, the man said, "Now you know what the Bible says about homosexuals, right? They are to be killed." And that was really hard to hear from people that I had seen be as real leaders in the church and people of faith.
Had this time being a person of faith and also a lesbian was when I was a member of the Baptist Church in Long Island, New York, and I came out. So coming out in a very fundamentalist, conservative church while I was married to a man it was very dramatic. It was very hard, and that's the time when everything shook. So after that I think everything has been reclaiming my space for faith.
After I graduated, I started my PhD work in religion and personality at Vanderbilt Graduate School of Religion. It was there that I had an official coming out, the spring of the first year, April 15th, 1989. So this is my 25th anniversary of Tuesday, this past Tuesday. So there was a church, Metropolitan Community Church, that I discovered that was founded by Troy Perry because of the discrimination, the condemnation that gays and lesbians face in mainline churches. And going to MCC, there was a coming out ritual on April 15th. So I was invited to give one coming out story. And I remember being very nervous. My friends came to support me, but it was in the newspaper. I made a public coming out, and the next month went home and came out to my family members. My brother, I came out to my family members. So there was much opposition, condemnation from my family members, with the exception of my brother next to me. But the acceptance came from Vanderbilt, came from Boston University, many students there.
Pacific School of Religion, PSR, was a setting where I felt really embraced as everything I was bringing, Latino, immigrant, lesbian, and I had really amazing experiences of teachers encouraging me to participate in class, to venture into speaking up my mind, because when I first had done graduate school in law school, it was a different setting. I was, and that happened in Long Island too, New York, and I had been discriminated against very heavily because at the time my accent was even more heavy. It was difficult to communicate and to have people thinking that I wasn't a smart person. So in many levels, PSR was a place where I could thrive and feel intelligent and contributing with my theology, with my orientation, with everything I had. So
I thought the most challenging time would be to talk to someone from my family in Mexico. Lo and behold, I talked to my cousin Ruben, and he was very loving and accepting, and he said, by the way, I'm gay. So that was wonderful and amazing. And then my cousin that would let all the rest of the family know, Samira, she was very sweet, and she herself had gone through a divorce, and she said, thanks for letting us know. I'll let the people know that you and your husband are no longer together, and things will come out as they do, and I just wish you well, and I'll be praying for you and keeping you in mind.
When I came out, I didn't have any difficulty with my family. They were very supportive. They saw me for who I was and still do, and are very supportive with me and my partner for 23 years. And so I'm very thankful and very grateful that I didn't have any type of conflict between being gay and Christian and a minority, so to speak. I'm very grateful for who God is to me and for the clarity I have now, and what a blessing it is to have a personal relationship with God and myself.
I was brought up in the Baptist church. I was going to a Baptist church. Brittany was brought up in the Baptist church. But the church that I was going to really wasn't welcoming and affirming. So it was important for me to find a church that was welcoming and affirming. I went to this organization and met a person there who suggested I might try another church, and I did. And I'm so happy I did. It was important for me to participate in this organization and to participate in this new church that I found. It was welcoming, it was affirming, and people weren't judged by what they wore, how they wore it, or who they loved. So I found the support there, and it was important for me to go to that new church because when my daughter decided she wanted to join me every now and then in church, she wasn't judged. So she would feel comfortable in that church. So that's what I found that was important to me, is to find a church.
It is weird or awkward going to the old church when I did come out and the verses or the sermon speaking against who I was. I felt like the big elephant in the room. But the new church that my mom has found is accepting. There's people that look like me, act like me, love people of the same gender, and I just feel alive. And I feel like it's something that is life-giving to be in a space that is welcoming, accepting, tolerant, and it's absolutely beautiful. And I appreciate my mom. Thank you.
I've heard many sermons, and actually just speaking with people who have come out of the closet has been very affirming to me. Rena Ramos, a Salvadoran pastor at our church, she and I have talked, and I just cried through most of her sermon once, where she was sharing her story of also having been married to a man and realizing that she was not going to continue to be married to him, and that her path was otherwise, and how she struggled with that. I think that really struggled and went forward and walked towards what was life-giving. That was really meaningful. Also hearing Darnell's story and his context in Southern Baptist Texas was very touching, and to hear his desire to kind of reach out and care for other people who are queer is really amazing, inspiring to me. Also today at church was very moving. We had twin babies, Cecilia and Joaquin, and their baptism was in Spanish and English, and family and friends were there. Several members were Latino, Mexican and Peruvian roots. And so these two little ones are there baptized in a water brought all the way from Bolivia and hold on to for about 8 years. It was great to see them being blessed, to hear a call to love, to justice and peace, and to follow Jesus, who lived and proclaimed God's love, and to be risk-taking, boundary-crossing followers of Christ.
It's something between you and your higher power, your God, your someone who's greater than you. I would take the time to have that one-on-one personal relationship and hear from God yourself who you are. I would encourage you to learn and find out what the words are that are, especially the clobber passages that are used against people who are gay, lesbian, bi, transgender. I would encourage you to search for yourself, because when you do and you discover what those words really mean and who they're really applying to, you'll realize that it's not part of you at all and that you're not even included in that.
No sermon, no religion has the right to hate the essence of God. So I would just, what was said to me, give back to people and say, you are loved by God. You are God's child.
My hope for LGBT youth is that they will be able to live, worship, work anywhere without being discriminated against. That's my hope for their future.